Arkansas went to Auburn yesterday at one of the most disastrous-looking football games that we've seen in the modern era. I give it one shall-I. Actually, that's not even plural. I just give it one chalice on a 1 to 5 rating scale. Bowling shoe ugly, as Jim Ross would say. Turnovers all over the place. Now, remember on the Ramen Noodle Express, one of the few games that we lost this week was this one. We thought the total was too low. We thought 56.5, it was going to go over that, and it didn't get anywhere close. Here's the part that's maddening. We got the game we thought we would get. I thought it would be turnover-filled. Most of the time, when you have two teams that you can actually bank on turning the ball over, most of the times increase in turnover rate will equal increase in scoring. However, if they just turn it over in plus territory a whole lot and there are no defensive scores and whatnot, well, then you're screwed. And so we were screwed yesterday. There were 7 turnovers total, and I think 3 or 4 turnovers on downs. 5-2. That's your padlock stats right here. Auburn, 5 turnovers. Arkansas, 2. That's your padlock stat. You know that Friday. In a game you think is going to be close, you know the outcome. Arkansas is in an interesting place right now. Trust me, I'll talk about Auburn and Hugh Freeze in a second. Arkansas is in an interesting place, are they not? I mean, they are 3-1. The game they lost was the game at Oklahoma State where they had 648 total yards, somehow, some way, snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. We don't believe in should have won on this show, but man, that's their game to take, and they did not take it. But now they're 3-1. Talon Green could be great or really bad, so it's really roller coastery. A lot of variance in the equation when you got at quarterback what Arkansas has at quarterback. Jaquindon Jackson, he is the number 1 running back in the conference right now in yards per game. He's a load, man. Arkansas's got some talent. Arkansas's got some pieces. I would love to just run an experiment. I thought this was going to be Florida, but maybe it's Arkansas, where we take Arkansas, a team that's not going to compete for the SEC. But if we took him and dropped him in the ACC or the Big 12, just like how would they do? I'm not saying they'd win it. I'm asking how would they do? It would be an interesting little case study. And your response to me is going to be, I'll tell you how they'd do. They'd lose because I already saw him play Oklahoma State. That wouldn't be the worst point in the world. So we like to talk about the winners on the show a lot. However, that's not what most people were talking about at the conclusion of this game. So I heard you. Your voices have been heard loud and clear. I think probably on the order of between 50 and 100 of you asked me, did you hear Hugh Freeze throw his players under the bus after this game? And I know the sound you're talking about. If you aren't familiar with Hugh Freeze's remarks after this game, Colin, let's play it for the viewers and listeners.
Unfortunately, this is what I know, and I know that there's people open, and I know that we're running the football. And we got to find a guy that won't throw it to the other team. And we got to find running backs that hold on to it.
They are horrific turning the ball over right now. So are we mad that he's wrong, or are we just mad that he said it? Because he's right. He's obviously right. So a lot of people were really up in arms with him for saying that. And they said, well, he shouldn't have said it. So my retort that I just copied and pasted to a lot of you was, is he wrong? And then your most common response was, it's not about whether he's right or wrong. It's whether he should have said it. So then, well, why shouldn't he have said it? Well, these are college kids. And you're not shouldering the blame. You're throwing it off on those kids. Well, in that sound bite, yeah, you're right about that. But the thing about it is that bite was part of an entire press conference that I went and listened to, where he talked about how bad he and his staff had done at coaching this team. 36 seconds into the thing, he's there, the first one taking responsibility for it. So, yeah, he threw dudes under the bus. He sure did. He threw his staff under the bus, threw himself under the bus. There's not much good about the Auburn football program right now. So there's a lot of blame to go around. And maybe I am hearing it differently than some of you. I will say I went and listened to the whole thing, which I would recommend all of you do anytime you're commenting on a press conference. He's not wrong, guys. Like it's not middle school football. Like at some point, there's this line of demarcation where you have to get stuff done. They are paying these guys money to play football. It's not pro football, but it's not strictly amateurism anymore. And when you're getting money to play, And you're getting coached at a level that's probably high enough, but there would be argument about that. I understand that. But Hugh Freeze is looking at it like this. He's saying, I'm coaching the same way I've coached in the past. We're running the same schemes we've run in the past. I've seen these things work before. It's not working here. What is the variable in the equation? To him, it's understandable that he'd look and say, the variable is the player. Now, here's the follow-up that I wouldn't have a problem with. If you looked at him and said, you're the one who stood pat with these quarterbacks. You didn't go get one out of the portal. So don't be looking at your quarterback room and saying, we're good. We'll go to war with what we have. And everyone screams, no, we need a portal quarterback. And you say, no, we're good. We're good with what we have. And then they're terrible, and you get mad at them for being exactly what they are. That's on you. That's not on them. I don't have a problem with that train of thought. Don't have a problem with it. But the follow-up is, as I said in the spring, and as I'll reiterate now, I didn't have a problem with him not going through the portal to get a quarterback either, only because I thought, and I think he feels the same way, that they were more than a quarterback away, and so those resources were best invested in this next cycle. Now, I think maybe the difference there is I'm not an Auburn fan, so I can look at it like that. If I were an Auburn fan, I'd be a lot different. I'm not willing to just sacrifice the season, nor should you guys be willing to do that. So I'm not saying you need to be okay with it, but my default position on Auburn this year was they were going to be a really bad team. I went down there this spring, and I met with Hugh Freeze, and I met with a lot of the folks in the program, and they were brutally honest about what they thought they had and what they thought they didn't have. And let me tell you what they didn't think they had, and that's an SEC championship contending team. They didn't think they had that. Then they certainly know they don't have one now, but they had a plan that was laid out very well that leads to having one. And so people have had plans before that have gone awry. I'm not telling you that these are written on the Dead Sea Scrolls and you need to blindly adhere to it. I'm saying I had baked into my opinion of Hugh Freeze and baked into my opinion of where Auburn's going the idea they were going to be really bad this year. So nothing about this has surprised me. Therefore, I don't have any knee-jerk reaction to it. I still think the guy will build a winner there. I still think they'll be fine. I still think through high school football and selectively through the portal, Hugh Freeze will build a winner at Auburn. It's not coming this year. What can derail it is toxicity. This is where you have to be really careful. This is where I don't envy you if you're an Auburn fan. Because you're doing everything that your Georgia and Bama buddies do. You're investing your energy and your financial resources. You're giving to the degree that they want you to give, just like your buddy does in Tuscaloosa and Athens and whatever. And they're getting return on their investment and you're not. And you're angry about it, and you should be, and I would be too. So you got two options. For those of you who are saying, well, this is not acceptable at Auburn. Okay. So option one, fire him. You're not going to do that, and you can't do that. Nor should you. Option two is buy in. Don't have to be happy with where it is right now. No one is. I'm not, and I'm not even involved in it. I don't like it just because I grew up close to there. I actually like Auburn to be good, and they're terrible right now. So I don't like it either. But you got to buy in to the idea because you're not getting rid of him, nor should you. He's the right guy for the job. I firmly believe that. I had a very big argument with someone today about this. He's the right guy for the job. They're just not going to win this year. But they will win. But the only way you derail that is internal toxicity, is internal cultural rot. And what I mean by that is they're going to build it through high school recruiting. And they are recruiting very, very well right now. I mean, Auburn recruiting is rolling right now. The only way that gets knocked off the tracks is if I'm committed there and I start sensing dissension within the Auburn ranks. Because I can go to Florida, I can go to LSU, I can go to A&M, I can go to Texas, Alabama, Georgia, and plenty of those places don't have that. So in a lot of cases, the slippery slope here is not whether Auburn's going to make a bowl game or not. The slippery slope is whether, despite the poor results that are still going to come this year because they're not done losing games, whether the Auburn fan base stays bought in. Because we've seen this happen before. When you've got a bad team, you got a bad team. They don't get any more bad than bad. When you got a bad team, by week 3 or week 4, they're just going to be bad all year. What you cannot do is watch them if they lose to Oklahoma or Georgia or Missouri or A&M or Alabama or a combination of a bunch of them. you don't reassess the entire thing after every outcome. A bad team's going to lose a whole bunch of those games. It's just a bad team. That's it. So if you make your diagnosis in week 5 and the results continue to match the diagnosis, you don't up the severity of the diagnosis 20% after every loss. What that does is it leads to this threshold over which things aren't able to be brought back. And you're not able to pull it back on the rails. That's happened before. That's led to coaches getting fired. That's led to recruiting classes falling apart. So that's what I'm watching with Auburn right now, because you got some really, really tough results still to come, I think, unless we see one of the most miraculous turnarounds the sport has ever delivered. And yet you also need to have positive energy around the program. So it may sound a little pep rally-ish around here, but that's because I do want Auburn to be good. But they're going to be bad this year. They are bad this year. And there's no quick fix there. There is a fix. That's the good news. It's just not quick.